guys, in today's video I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, which I realize I say a lot, but today's video is actually going to be a recipe video, so definitely not something that I've done before on my channel. So I'm going to show you how I make chili. This is a recipe that I've made a couple of times and sort of put together with David, putting together things that both of our families do and also some recipes online. So I'm not basing this off of any particular recipe, so this is kind of my recipe, which is why I kind of feel like it's okay to do a video about it. So yeah, this is how I make chili. So if you want to see how I make it, then just keep watching. So now I'm going to go over the ingredients. A lot of these you will also notice are organic, and that isn't technically my choice. I wouldn't usually buy organic products, and you don't have to either. This tasted exactly the same as times that I've made it with regular products, but David's mom was nice enough to buy the things for us, and she likes to buy organic. So first you'll need approximately 2 pounds of beef, at least for the amount that I make. Then I have a big can of, I usually use crushed tomatoes, but diced tomatoes were bought, so I just blended them up before I put them in the chili. If you like chunky tomatoes, then feel free. Then you'll need 2 regular cans of red kidney beans, and then you'll need 3 peppers, bell peppers. I'll usually use only red and yellow, but orange works too. Then you'll need 2 small or medium onions, 4 good sized cloves of garlic, or the more smaller ones to make up about that amount. Then I like spicy food, so mine is going to also include some spicy chili peppers. Here I'm using 4 jalapenos. I prefer to use 2 jalapenos and 2 serrano peppers, but you can use 2 jalapenos as well, and they worked quite nicely. And I'm going to add a couple of canned chipotle peppers. I think I used about 4 of them. I also add cocoa powder, cumin, chili powder, preferably nice bright and red so it's flavorful, cinnamon, oregano, salt and pepper, and some beef broth. So to prep, you're going to want to get everything cut up. Here I'm going to show you David cutting up the onions. I don't cut onions because I hate onions and I hate what onions do to my eyes, so he has to do it, and he kind of has a fancy style, so this is how he does it. Also, unless you like onions a lot more than I do, you're going to want to cut them quite small. They will sort of disintegrate into the chili as it cooks down because it's going to cook for a long time, but the smaller the better. You also want to open up and drain and rinse off your kidney beans. This is just because the weird juice that they're packaged with you don't really want in the chili, and so you just want them to be fresh and clean and not weirdly starchy, so just rinse them off quickly with some cool water. Next, you're going to want to start frying the onions. If you're only one person cooking, you might want to wait to do this until you already have everything all chopped up and ready to go in. But we had 2 people, so David was frying the onions while I was chopping everything up. You could add a little oil if you do want to fry them. We just sort of sweated them in the same pot we were going to be using to make the chili, so no oil. Once the onions and beef are cooked, everything else is going to go in, so you're going to want to make sure that everything is prepped. Again, if you're the only one cooking, you're going to want to make sure everything is prepped beforehand. So I'm just going to chop up all of the bell peppers and the garlic and the jalapenos to go in when everything is ready to go. Once the onions are sort of see-through and softening, that's when you're going to add your beef. Ours is slightly frozen, which is fine. It'll break down. Just sort of break it up and let it cook and brown before you add everything else to the pot. Now here the beef is more defrosted and mixed in with the onions and just starting to brown. And then I'm going to continue chopping up random peppers and stuff. For the bell peppers, I wouldn't worry about how big you cut them or how unevenly. They're going to kind of disintegrate down into the sauce of the stew or chili or whatever fairly easily as it cooks. And they're also not spicy, so it doesn't matter if you do get a bite of it. It's never going to be crunchy. You are going to want to cut the jalapenos a little finer, a little smaller, so that you don't get any chunks of that, especially if you have anyone who's sensitive to spice eating your chili. Also, if you want to make the chili a little less spicy, you can remove some or all of the seeds and the white sort of veins inside the chili pepper, inside the jalapenos or whatever peppers you're using, and that will take out a lot of the spice. I left all of the seeds and veins in, and this one turned out quite spicy. So that is just a warning, depending on your pepper tolerance, really. In case you don't know how to work with garlic very well, you're going to really want a big, heavy knife if you have one, and you're going to use that. You're going to lay it flat down on the garlic so that the blade is pointing towards the cutting board and away from you, and you're going to put your hand on the blade and crush it down, and that will make it a lot easier to remove the sort of papery skin. And then you just slice off sort of the root end, and the paper will slide right off, and then you can just mince up the garlic really nice and fine. And as you'll see, to mince up the garlic, I like to rest the tip of the knife on the cutting board and place a hand on the tip and just sort of rock the knife across the board, and that cuts it down. And just do that until it's as fine or as chunky as you want it to be. Then I forgot to show it, but once the beef and onions are completely cooked and ready, that's when you add all of the peppers, the chipotles, the garlic, also the crushed tomatoes, the beans, and all of the beef stock, and also about a cup or two of water. For beef stock, by the way, I use about a cup to a cup and a half. I kind of just make it so it looks good, and there's about a cup and a half left in the container, so that's what I used this time. And then this is going to be kind of approximate because I didn't actually use any spoons, and I haven't used any spoons for making this chili. I kind of dumped everything in my hand. I'm using about 2 tablespoons of oregano, and I'm just crushing that in my hands before I put it into the pot. Then I probably used about 2, maybe 3 tablespoons of chili powder. This is one of the main flavors in chilies, so you're going to want a lot of it. I actually add a lot more later. Then there's probably about 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of cumin. Then cinnamon, I'm probably adding 1 or 2 teaspoons. You're going to want a lot less of it. You're not going to want it to be a strong flavor, but it does add something to the chili for sure. Then I'm just going to add several good shakes of salt and several twists from the pepper mill. Just add some, anywhere from 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon or 2 is probably good, depending on how salty you like things and how peppery it is. Finally, I'm adding some cocoa powder. This is probably about 2 teaspoons to maybe a tablespoon. Again, you don't want this to be a main flavor, but it adds a really rich creaminess to the chili, and it's really, really good. So it won't taste like chocolate, but it will taste really, really good. And then you just stir everything up and put a lid on, and you let it simmer for at least a good half an hour. And at that point, I like to come back and taste it and see how the flavors are going and if it needs any more of anything. This is sort of an acquired skill, but you'll get better at it as you do it. So this is what it looks like when it's pretty much done. It just sort of becomes brown. A lot of the brightness from the vegetables fades, and that just means that they've cooked down to a nice softness. I like to simmer overall for at least another hour after I add the extra spices, after half an hour. So I guess total at least 2 hours or an hour and a half, but I mean longer is just going to make the flavors meld together better. I like to serve this with cheese on top. Obviously, it's a pretty classic way to eat chili, I think. So we've grated some cheese, and yeah, time to eat. So thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed seeing something a little bit different from me. Let me know if you'd like to see more recipe videos in the future. And also if you have any sort of constructive criticism, I suppose. I'd also love to see any pictures if you make this chili using this recipe. Yeah, that'd be really fun. So don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy watching it, and subscribe to see more videos from me, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.